Okay, bye-bye.
All right. I'm going to call the Liberty Union-Thurston Board of Education special meeting, March 24th, 2021 to order. Ms. Boyer?
Ms. Cato? Here. Mr. Hookrattle?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Schiff?
Here.
Dr. Walter?
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We will entertain Mr. Todd wants to address us.
Yes, checking to make sure you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you can tell us your name and your address, we'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir. My name is Andy Todd, 220 South Main Street, Baltimore.
All right, Todd, you got the floor.
All right, I had emailed the board a couple of times and have a number of questions still. So I will keep it brief in respect to your time. I know this is a special meeting and late in the evening. This is a situation where there is no answer that's going to satisfy everyone, and that is something that we understand. What we're looking for is an amicable solution to get through the end of this school year. So in July, when the school board came up with the parameters for the year, we had concerns that throughout the year as things changed, the remote option may be revoked at some point. I emailed Dr. Johnson at that point and was assured that that would retain throughout the end of the school year. Things have changed throughout Ohio, and that we understand also. Shots are being given, and your teachers have had the opportunity to get those shots. Last board, that was one of the main reasons for going back full-time, was that the teachers have been vaccinated, and I believe fully now, or close to fully, in meeting their time frames. However, a number of the parents just fell into the time frame where they're even eligible to get shots. So the teachers are protected, but those people at home are not. Those of us that have remained 100% virtual this year have reasons that we have done that. And they are not necessarily reasons that are apparent to the outsiders outside of our homes or those that know us well, such as things like not having a better learning environment necessarily because they are not getting that in-person instruction, but being able to see family who have some type of illness. So for us in particular, it's more important for us that we are able to learn and able to see family at the same time, as opposed to only being able to learn and cutting off family. That's our reason in particular, but there's many reasons that families have chosen that option. To have 4 weeks where they have not been going through the other option of the 2 days on, 3 days off, or 3 days virtual, that doesn't alleviate those concerns, and that is a huge shift to go from all online to straight into the classroom, eating lunch without a mask next to everyone. So I had a number of questions when it was proposed that we would have access through a password to the curriculum that I have not had addressed yet. Would you like me to go through those one by one or read them as a whole?
Well, I would recommend, if I might, Mr. President, the purpose of this portion of the agenda is to comment on items that are on the agenda. And so that's the informal part. You're about ready to go into the formal part. And typically, the Board of Education isn't in an open session to do answer questions and so forth. So I'd recommend to Mr. Todd, if he has other comments that he wants to make, that when you get into deliberation you can consider. I think that's the path. I don't think you ought to set precedent personally to turn this into an open forum question and answer.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I'm fine with what Dr. Johnson.
I'm fine with what Dr. Johnson. Yeah.
Were you able to hear what Dr. Johnson had to say?
Yes, I did, and I believe these pertain to the one item on the agenda, and that is possibly retaining, or in a slightly different form, retaining the option. So, depending on how the board chooses to vote, the piece that I have that pertains to that is, if they do not go with the superintendent's proposed option, how are the excused absences and for grades, will we be graded on 3 weeks that were supported during the 9-week period, or will those grades be averaged from the 3 periods that were supported? As from my understanding, if we are only given access to the password and are on our own to teach that curriculum to our daughter, that we won't be getting tests, we won't be getting assignments or turning things into the teachers, unless that's different from my understanding. And then, do we need to declare that we are remaining 100% virtual in order to get that password? So those are pieces that I feel are important and lead to the discussion for the item on the agenda, the superintendent's proposal to end class 1 hour early each day to support the remote option through the end of the year. And I ask that this is an allowance made for this school year with the understanding it is a unique situation during the COVID pandemic and not a precedent for upcoming years. Thank you for your time. Pending any questions.
Everybody good? We appreciate you speaking out, and we will go back to our meeting. We appreciate you, and we're all taken under advisement.
Thank you.
All right, new business other, remote learning option. The superintendent recommends that effective April 12, 2021, the school district will operate 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, with a daily 60-minute early dismissal to allow teachers to support remote learners. The remote learning option will terminate at the end of the current 2020-2021 school year and will not be offered during the 2021-2022 school year. Discussion?
I mean, I got a lot of things I would love to say. I've read quite a few emails from folks. I believe we as a board failed. That's what I believe. We should have been looking at this every 9 weeks. We did not. We also then said, apparently, that we were, based off the tiering, allowing students to be virtual 100% of the time. The fine print clearly states that that's subject to change. Nobody ever reads the fine print, right? And that's the situation we are in now, where nobody read the fine print, and now we are here meeting to talk about this. I respect some of the emails that we received. Some of them I do not. This is a thankless job. I knew that when I signed up 12 years ago. Some of those emails were extremely personal attacks on every one of you, and none of you deserved it. I strongly believe that I failed as a board member and a father. In July, I should have fought for 4 days more than I ever did. I watched kids go through things that they should not have to go through because we failed them. We failed them when we did not go to 4 days. We offered remote as an option for every student in this district. We did. That was an option that was on the table. And what we said was, no, we have to have teachers here. And so we made an option for the teachers. And I get that, I respect it, I got on board. I fully supported it. To those in the community, I fully supported it. This is not easy. We're not going to make everybody happy. I get it. I asked for a little bit of forgiveness in July. I got none. I got told we don't have to do what other districts do. And then I received phone calls that were told exactly what other districts do later when things change. That frustrates me. That all being said, I cannot take my frustration with us as a board out on students when we clearly stated in writing, even though there was fine print, that we will support the virtual environment. So I am fully on board with supporting the virtual environment. I know I've been one of the biggest proponents against it, right? I've wanted kids back in school. I believe, I don't know if Mr. Todd's still on the line, I appreciate his candor, I appreciate his respectfulness in the way he went addressing us via writing and via the conversation today. Not all people are Andy Todd.
Yep.
So I thank him for that. I do want everybody to know that at this point in time, there are only 13% of our students that are virtual learners. Okay? So we've thrown 30% out there like it's candy, and that's the number that Channel 6 got, and that's the number that Channel 6 ran with, and that's the number that other folks said. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that at that point in time, it was 20% of our students. We had one building that was at 30, we had another building at I believe 12, and one at 20. And currently, we are at 13%. I also want to be really clear on one other point. And again, I didn't write any of this out, so I apologize. I may be all over the board, but I just want there to be an understanding. I feel like at this point we're a little worried about students walking away from Liberty Union because they want to do this online environment. We were not worried about students walking away in July. In July, we were okay with that. If they went somewhere else, we kind of said okay, and we watched roughly 30 to 35 people walk away, and hopefully they come back. I hope they do. I really hope they do. I don't know that they will, but I hope they do. And when I say 33, that's between July 31st and August 6th, via the data that was shared with me. So I say all of that because then I look at this option, and I appreciate your option. I do. I feel there's a part of me inside that feels like this option is put in front of us to appease Dr. Walter and I, because we have pushed for 5 days for a while, and I feel like that's what this is trying to do. Is okay. Well, we'll maybe give a couple of board members, what they feel, and others, will go along. I've had a couple of conversations with teachers in the district. What I've heard is, and parents. And what I've heard is, you're going to change us up again. So, from a getting kids off the bus, from a trying to get daycare set up. We obviously made this decision as of March 12th to go 4 days a week, and give teachers the Friday to support our virtual learning, as well as the 30 minutes for that early dismissal. And that's been in place for a couple of months, and the 30 minutes has been in place all year. So I have a tough time because some have said that we've got to support our teachers in this environment as well. I have a tough time walking away from that. So I get this. I get that every day. I don't know that we need an hour based on only 13% of our population being remote. I'm happy if we are at 4 days a week, 30 minutes, continuing on as what we've done since March 12th. Monday through Thursday, Friday's a remote day. I appreciate you guys letting me speak my piece. I'm fine with however we go about this. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to add to, sometimes, and again, I'll kind of second a little bit what Mr. McRaddle said is, some of the stuff was very respectful, some wasn't so much, and, we don't make these decisions lightly. There's reasons why every one of us made the decision and had our position back in July, and we have the same reasons now. And I know, and you look at it differently based on what age group you're coming at. The concerns that I think Mr. Hookrowell and I have are for high school, because I don't have anybody in the district right now, but I had a senior son last year, and I watched how it affected him. And I watched him not be, I won't say normal, but back to his normal until he got back into college and was starting to interact with people. And that's why I've pushed for as much as I have for getting these kids back in school. And also, we had basically our data that showed early on, this is why we made one of our policy changes, you know, and like Mr. Hooker said, this isn't, you know, there is, yeah, it's the fine print, we said this is subject to change, but one change we did make was with the athletes. Because we saw our athletes were not performing as well that were on the virtual versus those in school. And that factors into my decision or my position for pushing for 5, is I think kids do better in school. So, and maybe maybe I'm the same, but maybe I should have pushed harder back in the fall as well, and really been more adamant about it. But I tried to be understanding, and I tried to say, I know there's people that don't feel that way. I've looked at it, we started 9 weeks remotely, and that was the only option that people had, was remote. To me, my follow through, we kind of changed that, and I got to the end of the year, I didn't think 6 weeks was terribly unreasonable to ask people to be in school. With the fact that we've had major changes in who's had access to this vaccination, and knowing that even next week we're going to have a large, you know, down to our high schoolers are going to be eligible for vaccination. So I think, you know, we don't make decisions quickly and without, you know, thinking things through, and we don't have the liberty of just looking at one single component. We've got a whole district that we've got to look at, and maybe I should, you know, and maybe I do share some of the responsibility. Maybe I should have pushed harder in the fall as well, you know, with my feelings on that. But I have heard some of the same issue, you know, concerns about that hour. Is that going to mess up transportation for folks? Is that going to mess up daycare? And I see that concern. So I don't want to, you know, I don't want to add burden to, you know, I think, you know, but I do in my heart feel the vast majority of parents want their kids in school. And I don't think they got a fair shake at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm. I don't either.
And that's
we
why
weren't willing to listen to them. The people that wanted their kids in 4 days a week with a remote learning option from the beginning were not listened to, and that's our fault. And for that, I take responsibility. And we all should.
You know, I think both of you said very, very good things. I'll respectfully, though, Mr. Hooker, I will disagree with you on one thing. I don't think we failed our kids. I know, you know, I'm the rookie on the board. You guys are, you know, been on for numerous years. And I know the passion and the drive that I believe all 5 of us have to do good by our parents in the community, our students, most importantly in the community, and our staff. And I think that all of us voted on these issues with a heavy heart. We all, you know, we all struggled with this. We wanted to make the right decisions, and we did the best we can. None of us have lived through a pandemic.
Right. And
for us just to be able to get it right all the time through this, it wasn't going to happen, and we all know that.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, the only thing, and I want to express my opinion on this, and we don't know what the future has for us as far as the numbers with the coronavirus and everything. We think and we hope that it gets much better and this thing goes away from us. I just don't want there to be an expectation or a belief by anyone in the community come the beginning of our school year, our next school year in August, that we're not tussling with this, we're not wrestling with this. I want it to be that when we start school, as long as the numbers are at a decent ratio or proportion, this remote learning's gone. We have got to get our kids back into school. We've got to make it so our school year is back to normal. It puts a burden on our community, puts a burden on us as board members, as teachers, and our staff, our administrators. And I want that, as long as the numbers are good, I want that taken off the table. The remote learning has got to go. We've got to get our kids back in school.
I'll just add in that I think we've learned a lot through the pandemic. We've learned a lot about ourselves as a board. I think we made decisions back in July with the information that we had available. And we can always say, if I would have done something different, I would have done it better. And that's how we learn and that's how we grow. So from this point forward, I respect, what everybody said here, but we need to make a decision tonight on what we're gonna do with those remote learners. I personally feel that I let those people down because we did say in that meeting that we would fully support them, and that's what we said. And I like to stand on my word. So how we do that, how we vote on a board to get that done is our next issue, our next thing to do. So, are you amending that motion?
I mean, I would love to hear input from others. I don't know if the teachers and or the union presented anything to you, Dr. Johnson, around their desire. I mean, they've seen this. We're the conversations I've had, and it's not just the teachers, right? It's also these students who are now, their parents have to figure out how they're going to pick them up a half hour early, right? It's a half hour early.
Right.
It's not an hour eurlier from now, right? It's a half hour earlier from now, right? Just wanted to make sure that I got that clear. It's not an additional hour to the already half hour. I think that's a concern for some people, how they're gonna adjust that, and I think it stays at 30 minutes whether we go Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday. I can't really say that I have a strong opinion now. I just know that the teachers I've talked to would support it being as is current. And again, that doesn't get the kids in 5 days a week. And I've been a big proponent of getting the kids in, but we are here because of the remote learning thing. So that's just an idea. I don't know, Dr. Johnson, if you've got ideas on that. Mr. Shook, you haven't said a word. I don't know if you've got any ideas or thoughts.
Well, I think if we're going to give them, do this remote learning, which I think we should, I think that we need to give our teachers enough time. I want the kids back in school as much as everybody else. And if 5 days a week goes back to school and we give the teachers an hour each day, which is only another half an hour to what they're doing, I think that, our teaching staff is, top notch. They've gone through this, they maintain, they are getting things done even in this terrible, terrible situation that we're all in. We can't thank them enough or give them enough praise because, it's a first for all of us. And I think if we give them an hour just till the end of the year, still go 5 days like we talked about, like what we've already agreed to, and give them an hour each day to continue to do the 12 or 13%. I don't, and that puts all the kids back in school. I personally think that that's what we need to do. Whether we're right, we're never right. I've searched this world over, the World Wide Web, and you find everything. And I've looked and looked and looked for how to be on the school board and handle a pandemic. I can't find it. I've searched and I can't find it. And there's not one person in this room that I don't think wants the best for our kids, our district, our school, our community. That's why we're here. We've said lots of times that we bleed red and black. We're not always going to be right. But I think that if we keep the kids in 5 days, and that's not to appease you or whoever, that's because I really do feel like they need to be there. But
Because that's
I
what
also,
Carol does.
But I also think that we need to give the teachers at least an hour to take care of those kids that we are gonna do remote learning. Anybody else?
I mean, do we need that out? That's my question.
I don't think we need an hour for
I-
13% of our
That's
student
kind of
population.
what I'm,
But,
So,
mhm.
Mr. Hookrattle asked for some statistics, you know, so thinking about, well, what do the teachers think? This number came up as part of a discussion that occurred several weeks ago, a couple weeks ago, at least now. The teachers didn't want to be in a position to have a vote or do anything formally, but they did come back and say, not a good position for anyone, but they would support the administrative recommendation. Right? So that's the context of the 60 minutes. In the interim, you know, things happened, we had discussions, we offered this 40-week and we found a significant migration back to school. Mr. Hookrattle asked, well, you know, what were the statistics before and after of those decision points? And I think I shared with you those statistics. If we were gonna, basically on numbers, and take the percent of students that are out, and it varies by level, and then the percent of the 60 minutes against instructional time, and the percent of 45 minutes against instructional time, and the percent of 30 minutes against instructional time. Probably, if we're going to divide the time for those that need it at remote and at school, it's probably closer to 45 minutes. I mean, if we're going to try to divide that time as a resource, which it is, consider that. Consider anything, actually. But at 30 minutes, it's a lot less. The other thing to keep in mind when supporting remote learners, and people are committed to, all of us are educators, committed to doing that in different ways based upon our skill, but those that are using all the resources available, it takes a lot of time to provide an opportunity for the remote learner, as opposed to the students that are in the classroom. That's why we have 20 kids in the classroom, because that's an optimal efficiency level, whereas a remote learner is not efficient because they have to be dealt with almost individually. But back to the statistics that we were looking at that evolved over time, those that are still remote represent a percent of ratio of student population as 45 minutes represents a ratio of time for instruction of the student contact day. So if that helps in terms of a recommendation or a motion, get that out there on the table.
So 45 minutes.
It's closer to 13%.
It's closer to, but it's 45 minutes a day.
so it's basically 15 minutes less than what we're at now. Is that how that would be?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's, what, 225 minutes? And then, how many hours are in a school day? 7
7-ish.
on average?
Yeah, the statistic we were running around 420 minutes a day, something like that, wasn't it?
One was 420 and one was 419.
I'm just thinking through 30 minutes a day and giving them the Friday to do it as well, which is what we're doing today. But that gives them likely much more time than they really need to devote to the remote learner, right? Because when you go to the
30 minutes a day plus all day Friday, yeah, that gives another 3 or 4, 3 hours, 3.5 hours. Maybe 4 hours more. with 30 minutes a day and all day Friday versus 45 minutes a day. There's a like 3 or 4 hour difference there. Less. 45 minutes a day, 5 days a week is less than 30 minutes a day, all day Friday.
So, but what we do allow are our parents to not have to figure out daycare changes for the last 6 weeks. Because that, I mean,
By not changing the schedule, you mean?
by not changing the schedule at all, we allow whatever daycare has been in place from the beginning.
Yeah, it's
Right.
one less day though on Friday of daycare.
Correct.
And
So I guess I would rather see us at 30 minutes, 5 days a week, or 30 minutes, 4 days a week for the parents and the students.
So are you recommending that we change this to 30 minutes?
I'm not making well, I can make a recommendation, but I would gladly vote for either of those two. Like, we could be out of here in less than 10 minutes. Well, we could get to executive session in a very short amount of time. So I'm very supportive of either of those.
Either what?
Either 30 minutes, 5 days a week, or 30 minutes Monday through Thursday, and the teachers are supporting remote learning on Friday as well. Just because it's a lot for daycare. I mean, that was the thing that came up. And I apologize for the comment I made. I will also say that I've talked to a lot of the daycare thing, right? So when you say there's no, I can't Google this, I get it, right? And so I appreciate that commentary. I will say that it's daycare because I have an 8th grader and a junior. I don't even think about daycare, right? It's not something I thought about till I walked out of here. And then when people saw the hour, that's when people started saying, wait a minute, like, if you guys are going to support the remote learning and then you're going to take an hour, I've got to figure out daycare again, right? So then that starts creeping into your head. Okay, you know, we're aboard of our word from July. You know, now we're making a change for the last. So now we're going to make another change for the last 6 weeks. Like we just said, we didn't want to make a change for the last 6 weeks. So when it comes to remote learning, so I personally feel like we should keep it at 30 minutes. So whether it's 5 days or 4 days, I'm happy with either. While we support the remote learners for the last 6 weeks. Any other?
I mean, I'm back to, I've been, wanting kids in school as much as possible, so I'm at 5 days. I mean, yeah, it's not ideal, no, in terms of but I agree, I'm at 5 days and the 30 minutes, and, I keep getting back to, at the outset of this, we made a lot of concessions to people that didn't want to be, and we tried, I think, and this, I think, is even us trying to honor that. But, we're talking about, and I know everybody says, well, it's only 6 days, but, and again, and maybe I do try to think about some of the daycare issues, but I keep coming back to, I'm looking at the kids at the end of their high school careers, and these juniors and seniors, and especially these seniors, they say it's only 6 days. It's 6 days for the rest of their lives. These are 6 days that they can make memories at school, and these carry on with them. That's what I keep coming back to. That's why I want these kids to be able to finish strong. Because even, last year they got to start, or the year before, the 2020 kids got to start at least. I'd like to give these kids in 2021 the option to finish.
But what about 45 minutes in 5 days? That keep them in school.
It changes daycare. It's still, that's the problem. You still are changing the daycare.
But 30 minutes, 5 days a week is not enough time for the remote learners. That's only 2.5 hours for that week. So going back to your
4 days.
4 days, 30 minutes, 4 days and keep the Friday open for the remote,
Current.
the way it is
It's
currently.
the way we are today.
Correct.
Is this the same level of, that we've supported remote all year then? Is it gonna be the same level of service that we've been doing all year?
For the 100% remote learning, yes.
For that
And I guess that's
13%.
what I'm struggling with. I understand, everybody's got, their feelings on this, and I respect that, I do, and everybody's got a certain thing, look, but we've always said, you make a decision and that's fine, but you've got to live with your decision sometimes. And if that means if you wanna stay remote, I respect that, and we will do our best but the level of service, I think, has to change at some point. And it's time to start putting in favor of the kids that are in school. That's where I'm at, that's what I keep coming back to, is we've done this for nearly a year. It's time to put the emphasis on the 70%, the 80%, the 90%, and that's where I'm at.
Well, 30 minutes in 5 days, which, 5 days I'm fine with. 30 minutes is just gonna affect the teachers, or their
How
ability
much support,
to,
how much support
they can do.
they're gonna have, yeah.
I really, no matter what happens, I really think that doing what we had said in writing or whatever the case may be, and doing the learning at the end until this year's over, I think it's important. If
I think the five of us all agree, we'll allow, there's consensus here that we want to support the remote learners.
Right.
I think what Dr. Walter is saying is what level of support is granted the last 6 weeks, and is it a lesser?
Is it scaled back? Scaled back?
And I wanna add something kind of to piggyback off of Dr. Walter. Education is a shared responsibility. It's not just a teacher-student responsibility. All of us are parents. We've all sat down at the dinner table, we've all sat down at the kitchen island and helped our kids with their homework. Folks that have their students at home as remote learners, it's a shared responsibility. Because it really burns me to see and to hear and get emails about, well, our teachers, all they did was just push out assignments, and they didn't do this and they didn't do that and everything. I'll agree with what Mr. Shook said. We have some pretty stellar teachers in this school district, and they are trying their hardest. They are working hard. They don't just come into the building at, say, 7 a.m. and leave at 3 p.m. and not do anything. Our teachers are going home, they're grading, they're pushing out other assignments, they're doing things, they're reaching out to kids. So I just, I had to get that off my chest, that this is a shared responsibility. This just is not a teacher and student responsibility. As parents, we have the responsibility to our young students to work with them as well. So, the 30-minute thing, the 30 minutes, I believe, is okay. Because it can also be, picked up on that back end by the parent in the evening. I just wanted to say that.
So do I have a motion to change or amend what I have?
Well, I'll make for a 30-minute for.
You want it to be Monday through Friday, 30 minutes early dismissal, which is what we're doing now, to allow teachers to support remote learners for the last 6 weeks of our school.
I'll move that motion.
Anybody else? Everybody good?
I didn't know if you had any commentary.
sitting here thinking.
I know,
still.
that's why I was looking over at you, and I could tell that the wheels were spinning, and, you know, I just wanted to make sure.
I don't know, my gut feeling is to still support the remote on Friday. Change it to the 30 and leave it as is and help support remote on Friday. I'd love to have all those kids back, but even though it's a small percentage, then we're talking a few days.
Yeah.
So.
And I go back to, we're putting the stress on the teachers, but if we move it to 60 minutes, we're putting the stress on the parents to figure out daycare in our elementary and part of our middle school. And so that's where I'm struggling. And that's why, as much as I want them in 5 days a week, if there's not a lot of support for the 5 days, I think we have to go. I don't know. And here's the thing, Dr. Walter, I hear what you're saying. I just don't know that you can. I don't know that the last 6 weeks you can scale back slightly, whatever. I mean, there's students in the district, and to give a level of support that's lower, or that's, I don't know. That's what I don't. I understand what you're saying, and I think many people would understand what you're saying. Right. It's just when you get into the what is public education, that's a tough one.
I think that's why we're struggling. That's why we're sitting trying to decide this. So, and
that's why there's no right answer to any of this, right? I mean, I get it. There's no right answer to any of this. I think we've all been in little pods together, in one way, shape, or form since July, right? I think we all have been in. These two people feel this way, and these three feel this way, and these three people feel. You know, I get it all. I can't second that recommendation, thinking that we're going to make others feel like they aren't getting the level of service that they.
And I can understand that. I guess I see it as a great big balance sheet in my head, and there's a lot of check, and there's not much over here, and I guess.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do, is balance it out.
Well, the 15 minutes, if it was at 45, I understand that there's some level of changing daycare, but if we go 5 days a week and change, that's one less day of daycare that they're going to have to do, and so the length of the daycare for Friday is going to be less than the 4 days or prior to that, or 5 days prior to that.
Right, but I guess where I keep going back to is we were in a hybrid model. It was Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday was our remote day. And then on March 15th, we changed it up, and now we went Monday through Thursday. Friday is our day, right, is our day off. So they've changed daycare to try to get this figured out. And we all want to support remote. We've said that. Okay, so now we get to this point where we change it again, April 12th. So it doesn't matter if it's 15 minutes. 15 minutes is 15 minutes of somebody having to get off work early, a grandparent having to do whatever. I just don't feel in my heart of hearts that that's what we should be doing, whether it's 15 minutes or additional 15 or additional 30. That's why I'm honestly with Carol on this one. I feel like it should be 4 days and 30 minutes, and just with 6 weeks we run the same schedule that we will have been running since March 15th, and we support our remote learners. And I will make a motion: 4 days, 30 minutes. Fridays remain off. We support remote learning with in the same level that we've supported remote learning to date. I will make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
The school district will operate, I would say, 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. with a 30-minute early dismissal to allow teachers to support remote learners and remote learning on Friday, Monday through Thursday. In person for Monday through Thursday, right?
30 minutes early dismissal on Friday.
Off on Friday. So that's the first and second.
Yes.
Mr. Hookrowell, can I,
Remote learning on Friday.
Remote learning, okay.
can I ask you a question? And I'm good with your, and I appreciate your candor and your, what your passion for what you said earlier. What do you feel would be appropriate as far as wording or as far as declaring that remote learning is gone August?
It's in
It
here,
says that,
right?
yeah. It says
It
right
says
there.
it'll terminate,
The remote learning option will terminate at the end of the current 2020-21 school year and will not be offered during the 2021-2022 school year. I just didn't read that, the rest of that, but
Okay.
say all that stays. We're changing from continue the way we're doing it right now, which is 4 days a week, 30-minute early dismissal, and remote learning on Friday until the end of the year. And then after that, it says the remote learning option will terminate at the end of the current 2021 school year, right?
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to clarify. I just want to make sure that was.
now, I will say this though, right? I mean, I'm assuming God forbid, something crazy happens and we will then reconvene in some future board meeting if that's the case and have conversations very similar to the conversations we had in June and July of last year. So,
You mean
if something, yeah, I
if
just,
it takes a turn,
Right.
if the governor
Correct.
steps in and says we
Correct.
gotta close.
Well, yeah.
that's again the fine print.
Right.
Any other discussion? So 4 days, 30-minute dismissal, remote learning on Friday, which is what we're doing right now, until the end of the year.
For the last, yeah, we will keep the current schedule for the last 6 weeks.
Instead of changing it. Roll call, Ms. Boyer.
Ms. Cato,
Yes.
Mr. Hookrattle,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Shook,
Yes.
Dr. Walter,
No.
Okay. Number 5, executive session. Executive session is requested by the superintendent to
Employment.
employment. Number 2. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So
Walter, Moore, to go into executive session at 8:55.
8:47.
8:47.
That
Oh,
clock's
that
wrong.
clock's
Yeah,
wrong.
that one's off.
All right.
8:47.
I didn't tell the wrong time. It was, I did it. 8:55. Some glare. Need to get glasses. All right. Ms.
Okay.
Boyer.
Mr. Hookrattle,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Shook,
Yes.
Dr. Walter,
Yes.
Ms. Cato.
Yes.
Oh, did we tell everybody we're not? well,
And,
Oh,
yeah, we will not, when we come back out of executive session, we will not, be doing any voting or, any actions afterwards, so, we'll be coming out of the meeting and adjourning.
Yeah, this is stop.